We all have our own diverse backgrounds, identities, and experiences that shape who we are. These are the things that make our colleges such vibrant communities and a unique place to learn from one another. Unfortunately, for many students, these identities, their socioeconomic status, and even zip code can create significant barriers to access and succeed in college. Once students make it through the door, the challenges they face from college affordability, transfer, basic needs like food insecurity, housing, and transportation can be overwhelming. Colleges, policymakers, and legislators need to break these barriers down if we're ever going to ensure that every student has an equal chance at earning a college degree. Often, the only way to expose these barriers, though, is for students to speak up and share their stories. Your college story is the most powerful tool to make change and advocate for students like you. Your college story can have a real impact on motivating other students to speak up about the barriers they face. Your story has the power to change policies that prevent all students from achieving success, and your story even has the power to influence state and federal legislators to make changes that can benefit students across the country. But how do you tell your college story to have an impact? Over the next few minutes, we will guide you through how to tell your story and use it to advocate for yourself and others. Your story will help make the change that students so desperately need. Student voices have the power to make real and lasting change that will impact thousands of students. Students in Minnesota have succeeded in freezing tuition for 6.5 of the last 8 years, passed legislation creating the Hunger-Free Campus Act to reduce food insecurity as a barrier to academic success, and led the way on advocating for greater use of open educational resources, saving students over $3 million since 2017 alone. These are just a few of the many victories that students have had in improving higher education, and none of it would have been possible without student stories. So why are stories effective? When we hear stories, it activates different parts of the brain, releasing chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. These chemicals help move us, increase our empathy towards the storyteller, remember the story, and even encourage cooperation. In research studies, listeners have shown to remember stories at far greater rates than facts and figures. So, what can you use your story to accomplish? You can tell your story to highlight barriers that students face. You can highlight programs or changes that have had a positive impact that should be replicated or expanded to more students. Your story can help encourage others to tell their story, helping to build momentum around an issue and rally people together who've had similar experiences. As student leaders, your college stories can be used to make change through a variety of mediums. Your story can be used on social media to highlight a barrier or an issue. You can use your story to advocate for change in speeches, in meetings with legislators, or even college administrators. Your story can even be used in campus and Minnesota State committees to highlight the experiences that students have on campus. When you sit down to write your story, ask yourself these questions. Firstly, what do I want to achieve? Do you want to highlight a barrier that students face and support a solution to it? Do you want to show the positive impact of a program and ask for it to be expanded? Do you want to shine a light on the difficult path that you had in reaching college and encourage others to keep working towards their dreams? Setting out a goal will help you focus your story in making an impact. Next, you should ask yourself, what is or was my conflict or barrier? Impactful stories focus around some type of conflict that exists. Conflict comes in many different forms, like the lack of financial aid provided to you and how it impacts your ability to pay for college. It can be how working multiple jobs, you still had to decide between textbooks for class and groceries. Or it can be how you lost your job because of COVID 19 and had to reduce the number of credits you're taking, delaying your graduation. These are just a few examples of conflict. Next, ask yourself, how will you make it relatable? A good story is also personable. Share how barriers and events made you feel so that the reader can imagine your emotions at the situation. Share specific details about the event that allow a reader to picture what it was like in your shoes. You don't have to share every detail of your life story, but share enough that readers will remember the story, even if they forget or never know your name. Finally, ask, what is your call to action? Your story should move people to take action, whether it's to share their own story, email a legislator, or sign a petition. Memorable and moving stories highlight the conflict or the struggle that you face and tell listeners what can be done to help you and other students overcome it. Remember, if you've experienced it as a student, it's very likely that other students will or are facing that same barrier. Now that we have talked a little bit about how to share your story, we need your help. The more students that share their stories, the more the student voice is amplified on our campuses, at the system office, at the state legislature, and in Washington, D.C. We need you to share your story so we can help make your voice and the voices of thousands of students echo across our campuses in our state.